On December 5th, 2013, Nelson Mandela died from a respiratory tract infection. Now, what was so strange wasn't the fact that he died on its own. He was 95 at the time and had been in declining health for years beforehand. What was actually strange was that many people claim he had already died. Since then, thousands of people have claimed that while he was in prison during the 80s, they remember news stories, memorials, and mourning over the death of a man who didn't actually die until 3 decades later. Today, I'm going to be discussing what many call now the Mandela effect, theories that stem from it, and piecing together the truth of what many people believe is evidence of parallel realities intersecting with our own. Let's go back to 2010. Nelson Mandela is still alive, and your name is Fiona Broom. Just pretend that's your name, okay? You're a self-proclaimed paranormal researcher, and you remember having seen news reports and other media of Nelson Mandela having died in the 80s. You search online, and you claim to have seen thousands of other people who remember the exact same event. Now, since Fiona, which is you in this situation, is a paranormal researcher, you claim this is because you are from a parallel universe where Mandela has died, and that somehow you and these other people who believe the same event has happened have been pulled into this reality. Or at least that's what you're theorizing. I won't go into the theories as to why that actually happened until later, but Mandela was fully released from prison in February of 1990 after being incarcerated for 27 years. He did have some health issues in prison, but he didn't, die. At least not in our reality, I guess. Over the years following Fiona Broom's sort of discovery, many other strange false memories have been reported. Before we talk about the theories around the Mandela effect, I thought I'd talk about some of these. The one that stuck out to me the most is the Disney Tinkerbell intro. If you've ever watched an old Disney film on, DVD or VHS, you probably remember this intro, but this intro isn't actually real. I couldn't believe it either, but apparently there's just a light going around the Disney castle, and the Tinkerbell thing is not real. There's no actual version of this that has Tinkerbell. This might sound weird to some people, but I feel like for a lot of people, let me know in the comments, because I was like, what, how? The next one is, it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. This isn't real. Apparently this guy said, it's a beautiful day in this neighborhood, which I have seen the It's a Beautiful Day in This Neighborhood intro, and I thought he said the neighborhood as well. And maybe he did in my dimension or whatever. The next thing is from the movie Ace Ventura, which kind of proves a point that a lot of people have been making for a while. When they discovered this, it was pretty interesting. Basically, the protagonist refers to a guy with a monocle as the Monopoly guy. Now here is a picture of the Monopoly guy, and here's another one. The Monopoly man isn't actually shown with a monocle in nearly every board game. There is very, very specific ones in specific countries that a lot of the Mandela effect type truthers, they like to hide this truth from us. But there is one time where the Monopoly man does have a monocle, but other than that, he doesn't have one. And I don't think you've ever seen that one in particular before. So it's very interesting that the Monopoly man is known as having a monocle when he doesn't. Many people also remember the movie A Bug's Life 2, which isn't actually a real movie. There are some Reddit posts I've seen that talk about the plot and what actually happens in this movie, and remember watching it very vividly, but it didn't actually come out. There's no movie called Bug's Life 2. It's just not a real movie. Another one that I thought was pretty interesting was Shaggy's Adam's Apple. Shaggy is an animated character from Scooby-Doo. He's also a real character in movies or whatever, but mostly he's an animated character, and apparently he doesn't have an Adam's apple. A lot of people remember Shaggy swallowing and there being an Adam's apple. And sometimes in animated media, people will have a very pronounced Adam's apple when they swallow because it looks funny or whatever, but apparently he's never had this, and some people believe that he did. Now the last two of these are obviously the most well-known, and you probably already know them. The first one being the Berenstain Bears. I've seen these books before. They have a group of bears or a family of bears or whatever, and I guess people thought it was spelled Berenstain Bears, but it's actually spelled Berenstain Bears with an A and not an E. This is another one where it's okay, I guess. But yeah, apparently this means that there are alternate realities. And of course, the very most well-known of them all, the Fruit of the Loom cornucopia. The Fruit of the Loom logo looks like this. I'm gonna put up my hand, my finger, and I'm gonna put an image there. That's a good spot. Yeah, there. So it looks like this, but it actually looks like that. I'll put it on screen. A lot of people think it has a cornucopia, and it doesn't have a cornucopia. The logo is just some fruit. It doesn't have a cornucopia at all. Now let's get on to some of the theories for the Mandela effect, because a lot of people are believing these things that just aren't true, but why are they believing these? And the first one is the most far-fetched, but actually it's probably the one you think of the most when you think of the Mandela effect. And it's the original theory from Fiona Broom, which, if you remember, that's you. One of these sides. Basically, Mandela effect truthers believe that there are parallel, slightly different universes, and this is evidence of them. The CERN Hadron Collider was turned on in 2008, which is suspiciously close to Broom's findings, which were in 2010. The CERN Collider is used to launch subatomic particles into each other at close to the speed of light. For science or whatever, I don't know, it's probably just cool. Now, this is probably the most well-known one, but yeah, there's a CERN collider, and people believe that when they turn on a particle accelerator, it will somehow merge two dimensions together, but it will only merge together to very, I guess, close to each other dimensions, right? It's two dimensions that are so similar that there's only a tiny, tiny difference in people's memories. Another theory that I personally find is the most interesting, more interesting than the parallel universes one, and this is the theory that we don't actually understand time correctly. Some Mandela effect believers think that no one is misremembering, not because they are from a different universe, but because we don't understand time as a dimension. Basically, all of time is happening simultaneously or something. I don't really know how it goes, but it is pretty interesting. They're saying that if you believe that there's a Fruit of the Loom cornucopia, you're also right. And that somehow the timeline has changed and only certain people remember it that way. And I think it's actually more interesting to think of time in that way, which is kind of how people are starting to think of time, as a different dimension, as opposed to you're from a different universe, but that universe has a different logo for underwear. Now, the next theory is the general theory of false memory. There are lots of theories for what can cause false memory, so I'll quickly just go over a couple. The first one is relational processing. Basically, two memories share something in common, so you can mistake one for the other. For example, the movie Ants came out right after the movie Bug's Life, and many people could have confused the two, leading to remembering a Bug's Life sequel instead. The second one is sleep deprivation. Basically, sometimes when you don't sleep for 3 days, then the evil bats will kill you or whatever. But these two theories can only really explain why one person misremembers something, not why thousands of people can misremember something the same way. Now, this is true, but I think we forget how predictable humans really are. Relational processing can explain many of these. For example, we think of rich, posh people as having monocles. It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood doesn't really flow as well as the neighborhood. I forgot what that show is called. What is it called? It's so hard to type with this. It's a beautiful day. I can't even see. Oh yeah, Mr. Rogers. Mr. Rogers in the show, that's this neighborhood, like the neighborhood that he's living in. But to a lot of people, maybe they think of it as the neighborhood. When they think of a neighborhood, that is the first one they think of, because Mr. Rogers was their childhood show or whatever. So maybe that's why they misremember it. And Berenstain Bears just doesn't sound right, I'm not gonna lie. Stein is like actually a name, and Stain, that's just Stain. That's just the word Stain. Also, I think we forget how much influence other people's opinions have on our own memories, especially if it's something that we don't know too well. For example, I've never seen the Fruit of the Loom logo outside of the Mandela effect. I don't have Fruit of the Loom underwear. I'm pretty sure it's underwear, right? I don't know. I don't want to Google another thing during this. So because I've never seen this logo, and the only time I've seen this logo is in the context of the Mandela effect, I'm going to think that it's supposed to have a cornucopia, even though it probably never was supposed to have it. So somebody just misremembered it, and now they're just gaslighting the rest of us into thinking that the Fruit of the Loom logo has a cornucopia when it just doesn't. To end this off, this doesn't really explain the original theory. Why do people remember that Nelson Mandela died in prison? And that's not something that I'm gonna really explain. I have no idea. Maybe some people are just from parallel universes. I don't know. But anyways, I've been Gilly Guy, and this is the first video on my channel. I hope you enjoyed. This is my first time doing this, so please let me know suggestions and whatever in the comments. I'll be doing lots of historical and cryptid and whatever videos, whatever I really want to do on this channel. So please subscribe, but yeah, I'll see you guys later.